All right, guys. So as your handout actually has it right there, there's an image of this project in the bottom right corner of the handout, right, which is the Serpentine Pavilion by Bjarke Ingels. You guys seen the abstract show yet? Abstract, yes. Watch it, guys. It's really it's just fun. It's cool, right? It talks more in detail about this installation right here. But as these diagrams show right here, well, that's the space, right, from the inside. You know, some more images from the inside, the pavilion during construction, right? We have some of the outdoor images, right? And again, some of the renderings, and no, this is actually a photograph of how it looks from the outside. But what's really interesting is this diagram that we have right here that talks about the I guess the essence of the project, right? So remember that I was talking right there on the board about the macro. Yeah, so the macro is the overall form, right? The global, the larger form. The micro are each of the units that make the larger component. Think about it as cells, right? The cells in our body, right? That make up the larger self of us, right? So you see that actually this really complex form is actually done only, right, with one single module, right? So all of this complexity and all of this variety that you see, again, from one single structure is actually, right, this module right here, the simple box. What's the only thing that changes? What? The placement, right? The placement or displacement? Trick question. Both of them, right? Placement and displacement, right? I mean, so it is about one module and what happens to the neighbors, right? So is it just on the same position? Is it a copy, or is it copied and then moved slightly? So in that sense, it's displayed a little bit, right? So whoops, wrong click. So we have that right there. Those are the modules, and this is what I refer to the micro, the local, your clay modules. So far, so good. All right, guys. So that's the two levels of design that we're working with, right? So you guys should have now three designs, at least three designs for modules. Now we're turning the module into a larger form, which you guys just started right now with the program of the space. Now I'm going to show you guys on Rhino a few tools, right? In order to go from, in order to go from a module, right, which is in this case, that's what I'm calling a module, right? One of these pieces right here. How do we go from there, right, into something a little bit more populated, right, which is this surface right here, right, using certain commands, right? And then another version of it, right, it's this surface right here, which is this one right here, right? And work with all different commands, different array commands, so that we can populate, right, a surface in that way with one single module. Okay, and that's what I want to show you guys right now. Okay, so if we start, and let me get out of render mode right here. So, all right, so maybe let me even start from a new, right? So, and again, right, let me open a new file right here. So I'll open it. You don't have to worry about following me. I'd rather you watch. You know, I mean, if you know what we're doing, definitely try to follow me. But if you don't feel too confident, or if you're gonna invest too much in trying to follow me, that you're gonna lose connection with what I'm actually saying, don't worry about it. Again, I'm recording this so that you can actually apply it. But the main thing that I'm doing right now, I'm creating a new file, type units, set the units. Right, I'm gonna set it to feet, and then feet and inches, and I'll hit OK. The first thing that I'm going to draw, right, is going to be the area. So I'm setting myself on the red layer right there. So I'm going to type rectangle, right, and I draw a rectangle at 20 feet, comma 20 feet, right, and I have that rectangle. What does that rectangle represent? Area, right? That's the area of what? The pavilion, right? Your pavilion, all right? So in order to have a sense of scale, what could I use? A human figure, right? So I jump on this real quick, right? Yep, wrong tabs. So many tabs. There we go. All right, so I go into the 3D warehouse, and I just typed person. If you're not familiar with the 3D warehouse, I highly recommend that you familiarize yourself with the 3D warehouse. It is just what it sounds like. It's a 3D warehouse. You can download three-dimensional models off of it. I think I downloaded this dude, right? So I just click on it. You do have to register in order to download. It's free, but recommend that you create a profile. Where's my download? Download SketchUp 8, and we download that. I come to Rhino, file, import. I think his name was Sang. Hit OK, and Sang should be somewhere there. Yeah, you guys see it? The dude. All right. I'm gonna bring my module. Right, so this is my module right here. Again, this is from previous exercises that we were doing in class, right? How to go from points to lines to, I guess, planes and surfaces. I'm going to copy that right there. So I'm going to control copy, bring it over here, and then I paste it. All right, now there's my module, guys. What do you think? It's tiny, no? It's tiny. So again, these modules want to be about, give it or take, a foot on a foot cubic area. All right, so maybe like 8 inches, 10 inch, 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches. You know, more or less like not a brick, but a little bit bigger than a brick, like a CMU block. Right? Those gray blocks that you see in construction, about there. All right. So again, I can select it. These handles right here while holding shift, enlarge it. Let's see, what's my grid set on? So if I type distance, oops, and I snap to the grid is a foot, right? So the grid is actually a foot, right? So I'm gonna turn grid snap, and I'm gonna scale this figure to be about the foot right there. You would start doing that. Right, so I'm gonna lift it up. Right, I'm gonna work on it. Let's see, I'm gonna rotate this. Right, maybe something. No, not like that. Something. The red. There we go. That. I guess we're gonna try it like that. All right, so I have stood up my form. All right, guys, so I'm gonna make a copy of this, right? The module right here. I'm gonna send it right here to the right. The first way of duplicating this, and I know copy works, but a way of doing this fast is array. Right, so if I type array, enter, right, select objects to array. Right, that would be the object that I want to array. Number in the X direction. So it's gonna ask you for 3 numbers: number on the X, number on the Y, and number on the Z. All right. So let's see what each of those is. So number on the X direction, right? So that's the number of objects that is gonna fill in this red axis right here. So I don't know. Let's do 11, right? Number on the Y direction, I'm gonna keep that to 1 because I only want 1 layer. All right, you'll see right now, it'll make more sense right now. So I'll do 1, enter. And number on the Z, right, that's the height, right? I don't know. I'll do 14 for right now, just so that it looks different. All right. So notice that I just said the number that this is going to get multiplied right by 11 on one axis, 1 on the other one, and 14 going up. All right, so there we have it right here, right? Preview yes, X number 11, Z number 14. Now it's asking me for the X spacing or first reference point. All right, now check this out. So if I start right there, if I click, right, and I start moving my cursor, right, notice that it starts doing that right there, right? And let me exit onto this view right here, right? I can start even snapping right to the forms themselves, right? So I have both the perspective view and the front view that I'm using to lay these things out, right? So maybe I'll do something like that, right? So that was my X spacing. Now let's see the Y spacing, right? So now we grow vertically, right? You see? And then I click again. It's giving me a preview is white. It's asking me, right, press enter to accept. I like it, so I press enter, right? And I end up with that right there, right? So that, how's that looking? I mean, from one, right, to now multiple, right? I mean, now it's a complex system, right? I mean, it's full of all this. And what I really enjoy about this, right, is as you rotate, right, how these windows and these openings change, right, size. And if we go to our render view, I start seeing that texture again, very much like a brick wall, right? Once one of those brick screens, I'm sorry, right? So we get that. All right, so far so good. All right, so let's see what happens if I now maybe copy this. All right, and let's see, let's go to the top view right here. And what happens if I start moving some of these objects, right? So if I start moving, oops, right, so I'm going to move all of them but one, right? So I'm going to move it maybe about there. So that's about, let's say, 12 inches. No, that's too much. Let's move it 6 inches. Let's do that right there. So I move those. I'm going to move all of them but one, right? Select all of them but one. So 6 inches right here. Right, start doing that right there. Move that 6 inches. Right, start doing that. Move that 6 inches. Right, start doing that right there. Move this 6 inches right here. Start doing that. Move that right 6 inches right here. That. Move that 6 inches right here. Start doing that. Move that 6 inches. Start doing that. And one more. Right, move this 6 inches right here. Right. So let's see how this is looking now, right? So I have that flat one, or I have this one that is now on a slight angle, right? That allows me to see these openings a little bit more. All right. So we have those two walls right there. All right. What happens if I make another copy? Start doing a copy of that. And then what happens if I now then, right? What if what happens if I now start making some groups, right? So that's group one right there, another group right there, another one, right? So I'm turning each row into a group, right? That I can then continue to manipulate and displays as a collection of objects, right? So I have those groups right there, and it'll make more sense in a minute, right? So I have those right there, and I have those grouped right there. All right. So then I go now to my top view right here. All right. I select one of these ones right there. All right. So let's say rotate, right, from there to there. Let's say I rotate 10 degrees. Oops. Actually, I'm just gonna eye it, right? So I'm gonna kind of like do that. Start doing that right there. That. So it's kind of like you're shuffling, right? I mean, you're shuffling cards or you're shuffling objects, right, in space, right? And we start like creating a larger, or we're enclosing a larger space, right, out of modules. So, and again, I'm kind of losing track, so hopefully we'll see what we'll get out of this right here. So start doing that right there. Start doing that right there. Almost there, guys. Right, so 3 more. And so basically what we're doing, these are the beginning of parametric design, right? I mean, the moment that you have a number of objects and you're trying to interact among again, a larger system, right? A larger organism, a larger system, right? We start getting some sort of more interesting, right, views, right, for this collection, this sum, right? So again, I come back over here until my render view. I start creating those right there, right? That again, just a slight or subtle variation, right? What it can create, right? I mean, the moment you start rotating them, you start multiplying them vertically, horizontally, right, on the y-axis. So that was array, and again, I'm gonna make a copy right here so that again we can see how that's working. Right, if I do another array, right, of this object right here, number on the x direction, I can do 11. What if I do numbers on all the axes right here, right? So I have my initial one right there. Now I just gotta be really careful with this, right? Because this is where the computer can start crashing and it doesn't like us a lot, right? So then maybe start carving out some of these ones right here. See what we're getting. So we have kind of like that subtraction of space right here, right? And so that's interesting, I guess. And how you can actually navigate through the space. And so we start creating some sort of a global composition, right, for it. And start creating some of that right there. So, oh, I got rid of his head. Okay, there it is. There it is. All right. Oops. So that's fun and all. So that's cool. There's another array, right? There's one that is a little bit more powerful, right? That allow us to go into surfaces, right? So how can we go from a set of lines, those two lines, we love them, all right? I'm gonna do a loose one, Right? So I get that curve. Well, let's start with something easy, right? Let's start with something simpler. I'm gonna come over here in this views, right? I'm going to do right, some simple curves. Like that. Alright, I'm gonna pick, well, let me rotate them first. I'm gonna rotate them like that. Let me pick one of them, move it to the side like that. Okay, so I have those curves. I'm gonna loft them. I'm gonna select that and select that right there. Whenever that happens, that means that the direction of the, so I don't know if you guys remember, but I started one curve drawing it from bottom, right? So I started going up, and then the other one I came back down from up. That's why it's flipped like that, right? So it's easy to fix. We just have to type DIR for direction. Select one of the curves, click on it so that you can flip the direction, enter, and then we loft it again. And now it has the correct direction, right? So it has to do with the sequence that it was drawn from bottom to top and then top to bottom. They're not matching, so it's crisscrossing the loft. All right, so I have a surface like that, right? And I have a module like this. You guys ready for it? Lily, are you ready for it? Lily, are you ready for it? Yes? All right, because here it comes, okay? So there's this different command. All right, let's copy our loft right here on the side so that we just keep track of it. All right, there's this different array. If I type array and I go to array surface, array srf, enter. Right, select objects to array. I want to array that guy right there. Press enter when done. Enter. Base point for object to array. It's a point on the module. I'm gonna pick one of these ends right there. Click. Reference normal for objects to array, or press enter to use C-plane axis. I'm gonna press enter for right now. Press enter. All right. Select target surface for array. That would be this surface right here. I'm gonna flip the direction, so I just click on it one more time, or not. All right, so I'm gonna leave it like that. Now this is what's important right here: number of elements in surface on U direction. All right, so I'm gonna do, let's say, I'm gonna do 24 on the U, and I'm gonna do on the V direction. I'm gonna do 18. Right, and it does that. That was too many. Oof. Right, and I can select the surface right here and hide it. Right, and it did that for us. Right, I mean it populates the surface with that module right there. I think it's too much. Right, I would try to maybe do, right, so I would reduce the numbers, right? So array surface, right? So that's the object to array, base point somewhere over here, the normal, enter, the surface is that one right there. So rather than doing 24, I'll do 18, and I'll do 11 on this other one. Right, there you go. I don't like these big gaps that happen right here. Right, so we're starting to populate that right there, and of course later on we would have to look into a secondary structure, which is what everything is holding. And I was talking to the class and giving them an example, right, that if you have You guys have seen these before? You guys recognize these? Right? Las tejas, right? So the roof clay tiles, right? Have you guys held one of these ones before? Like, have you carried one? Oh, they're heavy, right? They're heavy and they're meant to run the water down, right? But I don't know if you've seen how they're installed, right? They have these guides right here, right? This channels, right, where they're attached. So you start from the bottom right here. You do the first row, and then you do the second one so that you cover this the attachment of the first one, and then you do the next one, you do the next one, you do the next one, right, all the way into the top one right here. You know, we have the installation of those. But that's the same, right? Kind of like the same idea that we're doing, right? We're tiling, right, a bigger surface or a bigger volume, right, with these objects right here, right? So that's the surface array. But when it starts getting really interesting, and that's what I was trying over here, what if we tweak our loft so that the loft is actually some sort of enclosure like that? I'm going to bring this guy right here. Oops. Yeah, and this is where, again, a lot of power is being asked from the machine itself. Right, I can again draw that surface right there just through a series of arches, right? And then loft these two. And then again, I can do array surface, right? Select the objects to array, base point, let's say somewhere there. Reference the normal, enter, select the surface to array. That would be that one right there. Number, I did 84. I think that looks good. Right, and it gives me that right there. And I delete that, and I have that right there. That again, if I go to a render view, it gives me that. And not only that, but if we turn on, is the sun on? It is on, right? Some of these shadows, right, that we start getting, right, on the ground right here, starts being really interesting patterns, and we start doing there. So that's the array on a surface. We also have a polar array. And so I'll copy another module over here. And this one works nice from the top view. And so array polar, and that's the object array polar. All right. Press enter. Center of the polar array would be there. Right. Number of items. Let's do 30, and then I need to specify an angle to fill. Right. It would be that. Right. And it gave me that array right there of these pieces right here. So that was the polar array, which I can, if I undo, I can do the full 360, right? The center of the array is right there, 30 items. Angle to fill or first reference point, I can give it 360, right? And it's going to give me, I think, 30 objects I had selected to fill a degree of 360, right? And I arrayed that as such. Right, so I have arrayed those in a radial way. Right, so that's the polar array. Now, what starts becoming really fascinating, though, is what happens when you start arraying on surfaces or on curves. Right, so again, but with the record history on. I don't know if you guys remember about record history. right? So there's this setting right here in the bottom, record history. I'm going to turn it on. Right? So record history is on. I'm going to repeat, right? So array surface, right? Select object to array, it'll be that one. Array it from right there. The normal, press enter. That's the surface to array. 1484, we'll do that. Right, so it has done that. Okay, but let's say that I changed my mind, right? And I changed the surface. All right, so you guys ready for this? Yeah, Javier, are you ready? Not sure. Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. Right. So anyway, I pick on the. There should be a little point right there, the vertex, right? The surface vertex right here. And if I manipulate that, right, that surface, wait for it, right? It updates, right? So if I lift this up, you guys see that it's updating the modules, right? So if I want to lift this up a little bit even more, right, I can start creating that right there, and maybe push it out a little bit, right? Whoops, don't crash. There we go. Don't crash. There we go. Right, so I can start editing the surface, right, with that. And that was the history is on, and I can just hide that, and I can, you know, have a different form that it updates, right? It updates as the base surface gets updated. All right. And just the same way that there's the array on the surface, there's the array on the curve. Right, so let me go to this other model right here, right, where we were playing with that over here, right here. All right, so I have this this curve. All right, I'm gonna copy one of the modules from there to there. Let me move all of this somewhere. And we'll do that. All right, so I have a curve, I have the module, and I'm going to turn record history on. All right, so it's on. I go to array, but rather than doing array surface, I'm going to do array curve. All right, so select objects to array will be that object right there. Press enter when done. Select the path, that is the curve. All right, so I select the path. Now this window pops up, and it's asking me right there, how many objects do you want? Right there, 29, and this is going to be the space in between them. So I can either set the number right here, and you see how if I decrease the number of objects that are going to be arrayed within this curve, the spacing in between them increases, or if I increase the number of objects, the space in between them decreases. All right, so I'm going to do, let's not do something too crazy. Let's do maybe 20 something. All right, so 23. Right there, freeform, no rotation, road-like. That's interesting, the road-like, right? So we do that. Click in a viewport to choose a C-plane, right? And it does that right there, right? Now, that's not the coolest part, right? The cool part about this is that I can then manipulate the curve, and it should update with me, right? So right? So done right there. I don't know if I like that. Yeah. So it's giving us that right there. Yeah. So array, guys, a world of array options. Questions? Right. So does this help in order to start seeing it, right? I mean, how can we go right from, again, one single object, right, one one module, and how you can start building up a larger form, and that larger form in essence doesn't, it's not a complex form, right? It's not like this, where is it? It's not like, there we go. It's not like this is the most complicated form in the world, right? But the simple innate complexity of the box, just one box multiplied by the displacement of its location, right? And the subtle changes in angles, right, and perspective is what gives an object like this, right, such a complex, sense to it, right? And that's ultimately what the objective of the assignment is trying to teach us, right? I mean, how to work at different scales and how to achieve different levels of complexity. Yeah. So cool, right, guys? So much fun. All right. Okay. I'm gonna pause recording. Anyone has questions?
What if we do like a curving array everything? Well, like like those cursive things, you have like not always like spaces between. Is there any way to fill those up?
Yeah. So it's so how do you fill in those gaps right there? That's the question right there. So for example, I have a good amount over here, right? For example, there, right, like that gap right there. So it'd be increasing, right? Or how can we do, or how can we fix that? Because we change the number of of objects on the array. So I think in this case I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And well, you have to start again from scratch. Yes. So, right, so if I delete those, for example, and again, this is where you really start testing the boundaries or limitations of your computer because of the number of geometry that you start generating. All right, so I had an 8 by 8. Let's say that I do an array surface, right? That object right there. From there, enter. Target surface is that one right there. So I had 8. I don't know. Let's do 16 twice, right? Twice as many, right? On one direction, and then the other direction I had another 8. So I don't know. I'll do 12. Right. So you see that this one's now it covers more of those open spaces. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yes.
Since you said that we have to have like the bones of the structure, could we have the surfaces as
That's a good question. Should you leave or can you leave, right, the surface as you have it there? I say for right now, we're kind of streamlining this project, right? I mean, the reality is that we're not gonna ground it as much as we need to ground it, I mean, for fabrication purposes. So I'd say rather than leaving the surface right there, because what happens when you leave the surface is that we block the view. You see? But if I select the surface and I hide it, I can see through, right? And I bring the light. And not only that, but once you have a collection of surfaces, meaning, let's see, is it another, right? Kind of like here, right? You start getting this really interesting overlap of walls, right? Or of screens, right? The moment that I'm able to see through this screen right here and start seeing what's behind it. So I would say let's remove the surface for right now. And we're just going to have to think that this structure is there.
Oh, okay, so we're not like doing an extra structure.
I mean, ideally we would, but I don't know if time's going to allow us. Yeah. So for right now, as long as we play, I know, right? Man, more work? I don't get to do more work? Damn, so much. Careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for, right? Just kidding. Guys, alright. Alright, guys. I'm gonna pause this right here, stop this, alright?